If a mountain biker were gonna build a gravel bike, what would it look like? That's the new Santa Cruz Stigmata. And I know you're burning inside to tell me that
It looks like a mountain bike from the 90s.
So call me a bandwagoner, call me whatever you want, but I've been single tracking gravel bikes for at least a few years now and think that it is an absolute riot. So when Santa Cruz released their newest version of the Stigmata, which is basically a gravel bike that is intended to be single trackable, all I could do was look at it.
You know, when I see a car like this, first thing I do is I say, would you look at this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Santa Cruz are saying that the Stigmata is the mountain biker's gravel bike. But for me, none of the complete builds were completely mountain bike-ish enough. So I put together this custom build. So to really chap your backside even more, I actually did this custom build with as many mountain bike specific, or at least mountain bike-ish products and parts that I possibly could. For starters, I've got the 5-dev trail cranks in a 160 millimeter. I've actually been running those on my mountain bikes for almost a year now. I've got that paired up with SRAM's relatively new transmission drivetrain. That is their sort of flagship electronic group set. It's got a 1052 cassette with all of the range. In short, you can shift it under load. It's all the shifts under all the power. It is a really sweet setup. The only real non-mountain bike piece in the whole drivetrain is this wolf tooth 38 tooth chainring. That's way bigger than your typical, say, 28 to 32 tooth chainring that you would normally see on a mountain bike setup, just to give you a little bit more top end for, dare I say, the road and gravel. And if you're coming at this from the road or gravel side of things, you're probably gonna look at this build and think that aliens that enjoy motocross built this setup because it actually has a suspension fork. It's probably the most obvious piece on the whole bike. It's actually not a mountain bike fork, but it's the gravel specific RockShox Rudy in the 50 mil travel. And then I'm running these Reserve GR 25. 25 means 25 mil internal width. That was basically a mountain bike wheel, say 10, 12 years ago. And I've got those reserves shoot up with these Swalby G1 Ultrabite tires in a 50C. For those mountain bikers out there, that means that is pretty much a 2.0 width tire. And for stems, I've definitely got a relatively mountain bike specific stem with a 50 millimeter I9 stem. While I'm more typically running a 40 mil stem on my mountain bikes, most gravel bikes are still sliding in at 60 at the absolute shortest, more typically at 70 or 80. So this is pretty short by gravel bike standards. And then as you can see here, I've got this wolf tooth supple bar tape. That is basically a gravel version of the sort of foam grips that I always run on my mountain bike. And then last, but absolutely not least, I've got this Crank Brothers 125 mil dropper post. So you may be asking yourself, if you were just gonna build a mountain bike, why didn't you just get a mountain bike? That's a fair question. The reality is, it's not uncommon that I actually find myself here on a sort of casual road-ish sort of ride. Sometimes it's too late in the evening to make it to the trail. Sometimes the trails are wet. Sometimes it's just nice to have a change of scenery, and this sort of ride where you just jump on your bike after work and take off, it's actually quite enjoyable sometimes. And for me, the Stigmata is absolutely perfect for this sort of ride. If you're a mountain biker and you get aboard the Stigmata, you're not going to feel like you're aboard a mountain bike. You're still going to feel like you're aboard something much lighter, much faster, something that just completely goes when you give it the gas instead of having to slog your big mountain bike around. But if you're coming at this from more of a road or gravel biker perspective, when you get aboard the Stigmata, you're definitely going to find a bike that feels noticeably more relaxed than what you're used to. It's going to feel more comfortable. But I think that you're gonna be pleasantly surprised at still how fast and how light this bike actually rides. But enough with the nonsense. Let's take this thing on a mountain bike ride. All right, I'm here at my local trails. To me, this is exactly what it's all about. On a trail that can admittedly feel mundane, not because it's not an awesome trail, but because I hit it several times a week. Bring your bike that's maybe a little suboptimal for it. just to help liven it up, freshen it up, have a completely new look at it. Mix sections that admittedly may felt a little bit boring at times, feel sketchy. Even like this little drop right here. I'm gonna try it on this bike. I don't know how it's gonna go. Woo! Yeah! Way better than I expected. That's super, super easy on a big full squish mountain bike. But there again, feels a little sketchy on this bike. So I actually can't believe how well this thing handled that drop. I thought it would be one and done for the video, but I actually hit it about 5 times. But I guess for me, one of the cool things about putting this thing on single track is just how fast it is. It just goes when you mash into the gas. Corners well. It's actually insane how well these Schwalbe tires grip. Of course, it's the fall, it's really dry. If you're not familiar with me or where I'm riding, Pulaski County Park, Eagle Scout Trail System. It's on Trail Forks. That's the venue for today. You can see it's gotten a little rootier over the years since this was first built. But by and large, it's actually really fun on a bike like this. We've got some bigger jump lines. Definitely not going to be tackling those today. And certainly when this thing does get in some of the rootier sections, it's obviously slowing up quite a bit. But there again, to me, that's part of the experience. But here, coming up out of this low section of trail, instead of, whereas on my bigger bikes, I just sort of exist. Jeez. Wow. On this one, I wreck. Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by that root, all good, no damage. I was trying to say that you can really accelerate out of the turns and up the little short steeps on this bike. It's a super tough one right here. Let's see if we can get it today. I believe we did. Yes. All right, about to roll into Suspension Bridge Spur, one of my favorite sections, all at PC Park. It's like really good flow. There's a couple of rollers down here that you can actually double. Not those, that's a warm-up. Right here. Got it! Yes! So thinking about that double, that's gotten pretty easy on my full suspension, even on a hardtail. But man, it felt like a big accomplishment. Same with this right here. Woo! All right, gonna take another crack at this double. Hit it a few times. This is actually really fun. Woo! Like smoking it. This downhill immediately after it is like super cool. A little harder pull for you that time. All right, here is a skinny that's seen better days. I think I probably should try it. What do you think?
No.
Nope. I got closer. All right, one of our crown jewel descents, low line. It's actually really cool. Good job. There it is, kids, high line descent. Super fun. 3 months now of enjoying the Stigmata. Give it my long-term shakedown. So trying to collect my thoughts for this long-term review and sort of think out why I like the Stigmata so much. The phrase that keeps coming to my mind is fast is fun. As someone that spends the majority of their bike time on full suspension mountain bikes, and even more recently, big travel e-bikes, the change up that I feel when I jump aboard the Stigmata, it's just fun because it feels really fast. It's a change up in that it feels altogether different than what I'm used to, and it is definitely a nice way to break up the monotony of always being on a full suspension mountain bike. And you may say, well, yeah, duh, welcome to getting on a really nice gravel bike or road bike. For me, it's more than that because this one has the party trick of still feeling like it is blazing fast, but also having the capability chops to be a riot on single track. Usually there's some compromise there, and certainly this doesn't feel as capable as even a lightweight full suspension mountain bike, but it's a lot of fun on the trail while still preserving that sort of lightweight fast feeling that you get out of a gravel bike. So who do I think the ideal buyer for the Stigmata is? There's a million different use cases that you could think of for this bike, but this is a mountain biking channel, so I'll hone it down and refine it to say any mountain biker who's looking to get into a quality drop bar bike, they're wanting to put in some cross training miles on the road or on the gravel, but in the back of their mind, they're also curious about putting a drop bar bike on the trail. Definitely think the Stigmata should be at the very top of that individual's radar. So let's hit the few negatives that I've been able to come up with. For starters, the color choice. It's red. Even if you and multiple of your home people want to build up a Stigmata or get a complete build, it comes in red. The red is certainly nice, but options are nicer. Second, the build kits. They all skew very much toward the road and gravel-ish spectrum, and it is, after all, a gravel bike, but it would be cool, especially since Santa Cruz are leaning into this being the mountain biker's gravel bike, if they did a build closer to what I have here. It seems extreme, but really, it actually plays out really well for a very wide spectrum of riding scenarios. Again, I have what's commonly referred to as the mullet setup. I have the mountain bike derailleur and cassette. One of the most awesome things about the Stigmata is that it is UDH compatible, which means you can run SRAM transmission. It would be cool to get a complete build that features this exact setup. And on that build, it would also be cool if it had a properly long dropper post. Now this Crank Brothers 125 length is, to my knowledge, the longest 27.2 post available. Use that one, use that one. For me, if it's just gonna have an 80 mil post, I'd almost just assume not have one. I love being able to slam this one literally straight to the top tube. That actually gives at least some tangible benefit. And then why not have the widest spec tires that you can fit in this thing? After all, it's for someone who is looking for the mountain biker's gravel bike. Those are really the only negatives that I can come up with, but that's also a good segue to make mention that because I did a frame-only build up, I actually got the rigid carbon fork with it. So it's actually pretty quick and easy to go from sort of almost mountain bike monster to road rally in pretty short order. I just have to swap the fork out and then get a set of wheels and tires that have some road slicks, and it would be nothing to get this thing down to like a 19-pound road rocket that I would feel very comfortable showing up on pretty much any group road ride that my skill set would take me on. Let me wrap this review up with a scenario. Let's say you are going on vacation, you're going to the coast of Florida, it's very flat. you want to take a bike, but you definitely don't want to take your big full suspension mountain bike to have to slog that around because you know there's going to be some sweet greenways. You want to get in some road riding and soak in the scenery. But when you get there, lo and behold, there's some really sweet single track ribbons that you didn't know were going to be there. If you took the Stigmata, you're going to be well taken care of. Hope you found this review helpful. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments if you would consider single tracking a gravel bike. It is a little bit of a fringe concept, but I want to know where you're at with that. Also, if you're in the South Central Kentucky area, we'd love to set you up with a Stigmata. Give us a shout here at Somercycle Bike Shop. Thanks for watching.